On to the details now. Indian government has called an all-party meeting today on the Bangladesh issue. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar will brief the leaders of various political parties. And more update from neighboring Bangladesh first. Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin has announced that an interim government would be formed as soon as possible after dissolving the National Parliament. He made the announcement in a televised address to the nation on Monday night, hours after Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh after resigning as the Prime Minister. The President said the decision was taken at a meeting with leaders of different political parties, civil society representatives and other stakeholders. Chiefs of three forces were present at the meeting. The meeting also decided to free Bangladesh Nationalist Party chairperson Khaleda Zia and other political prisoners. The Bangladesh president said the interim government would conduct the next general election as soon as possible to transfer power to an elected government. President Shahabuddin also ordered the release of all students arrested during the ongoing protest. Bangladesh Army Chief Waqar Uzzaman will meet with the representatives of the students and teachers on Tuesday. And in another update, the anti-discrimination student movement has outlined plans for the formation of an interim government, proposing Nobel laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus as the chief of advisor. Nahid Islam, a key coordinator of the anti-discrimination student movement, announced this early on Tuesday in a video message. According to the coordinators, Dr. Yunus has agreed to take on the role. Well, India is closely monitoring the developments in Bangladesh. The Border Security Force has issued a high alert to all units along the India-Bangladesh border following recent developments in the neighboring nation. In the wake of the emerging situation, Air India on Monday cancelled the scheduled operation of flights to and from Dhaka with immediate effect and stated that they are continuously monitoring the situation. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina tendered her resignation on Monday and left the country. After Hasina left the country, many people entered the Ganabadhan, the residence of the Prime Minister. According to media reports, people were seen decamping with various items from public buildings. A crowd was also noticed inside the Parliament building, and people were seen taking things from inside the Parliament building as well. Moreover, the United Nations has called for restraint and asked that formation of an interim government in the South Asian nation be democratic after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country. UN Secretary General has urged calm and restraint by all sides and emphasized the importance of a peaceful, orderly and democratic transition.
We're watching the situation in the country very closely. We continue to call for calm and restraint and to urge all parties to respect the right to peaceful assembly and expression. We urge security forces to protect those out on the streets of Dhaka and other cities of Bangladesh. You'll have seen that the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, issued a statement yesterday in which he called for violence in the country to stop. He added that accountability for human rights violations, including those with superior and command responsibility, is crucial. The international community must make it clear that at this pivotal time, there will be no impunity.
And DD India's Jessica Taneja joins us for more on this. Well, Jessica, good morning. A lot has happened since yesterday. Hasina fled Bangladesh. She was given almost just 45 minutes to leave the country. What is the latest update you're getting for us from there?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, an all-party meeting will be held with External Affairs Dr. S. Shankar briefing the lawmakers about the current developments in Bangladesh and with respect to what the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, would her entire whereabouts would be, and the entire situation, how the neighboring country is now looking at in terms of political reformation and a peace process of sorts. You pointed out also that the student leaders who have been at the forefront of these protests have demanded that the chief advisor should be the former Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, who should be made in charge immediately, and of course, the demands being met in order to restore peace and calm on the streets. While there were moments of destruction yesterday as well, the count, the number of people who have died because of these protests in the last 2 days has gone up to 136, which is alarming because earlier, 2 weeks ago, from the violence that we witnessed on the weekend was about 200, and that toll now stands at 336. And that is a lot of students who also died at this point.
Right, Jessica, as you mentioned and we mentioned earlier, an all-party meeting planned today. What are the implications for India and what happens next?
Well, Sheikh Hasina has been an ally of India and, of course, a leader for the last 15 years. This was her 4th term in office, and a lot of connectivity projects and other projects as well linked to infrastructure development were cemented and were started with her. So, of course, there was this political trust established over the years with Sheikh Hasina, and the last 15 years have seen India and Bangladesh ties strengthen over the years.
Yes.
And with Bangladesh moving with India all those years. So, of course, this would be giving the Indians a moment, or especially the Indian policymakers, a moment to think on how to reflect on the current situations and what lies ahead and how the situation should be monitored, because India would have to be well prepared to deal with people who are now going to fish in troubled water, especially the radicals who don't seem to be looking at India favorably at all.
All right. Jessica, for our viewers, it's been over a month since the country is on a boil and there were different demands by the protesters, by the student protesters. What was it this time that got them to the streets? Was it because the government ignored the call to release student leaders, or was it that after 15 years of Hasina's rule, a change was imminent?
Well, there are a lot of factors that determine as to how this vote.
Yes, Jessica?
In a matter of days and now continuing till over a month. Well, the recent violent escalation, of course, is to be blamed on the brutal crackdown by sending in forces on the streets against protesters who were students, primarily beginning from the University of Dhaka. And once that had taken over the streets, you saw many parts of the country, particularly Chittagong as well, that witnessed violence on the streets. Well, the military was brought in, the paramilitary forces were brought in to prevent the students from continuing with their protests on the streets. And then later, there were reports of that protest being hijacked by political rivals as well. So nothing could be ruled out on how this got muckier by the day. But at the same time, the kind of political instability that Bangladesh has put itself into, because the protesters, now that the Supreme Court had come in to resolve the matter at hand, where it revised the job quota system to provide that interim relief. But the reason the protesters did not stop there, because they were demanding justice and a resignation of the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, that is Sheikh Hasina.
Yes.
For many, the economic situation hasn't been that well. Let's not forget, Lipakshi, that Bangladesh is the world's second largest garment exporter after China. Brands like H&M and Zara could struggle in the next few months if normalcy is not restored in Bangladesh, because a lot of factories have been torched by protesters in Bangladesh. And that is not good news for a country whose economy was a healthier one, growing at the GDP growing at 6.5% per annum, but joblessness will certainly spell doom, moreover.
Right. Also, Jessica, what information do you have as far as the interim government now proposed in the country concerned?
Well, if you heard from the video messenger that we've seen surfacing on the internet by the student leaders, they seem to suggest their own representatives, former Nobel laureate Mohammad Yunus, as you pointed out, would be the chief advisor, because they've made it categorically clear. They do not want any kind of military takeover or any kind of military figurehead at the helm of affairs. And that perhaps spells out the clear and outright demand of the student leaders. Because remember, the reason it has turned violent, and perhaps a lot of students, innocent students, have lost their lives, children on the streets have lost their lives, is because of the kind of handling of the situation, ignoring demands of the protesters, of the students on the streets who wanted a peaceful resolution, a dialogue, but of course some were fishing in troubled waters and saw an opportunity to create turbulence, and perhaps military interference is not something that Bangladesh has not seen before. It has in the past,
Right.
but it was Sheikh Hasina who kept the military at bay and created a rather secular environment and a secular government in
Yes.
a rather Islamic country. So of course, things now look a little difficult, but the students
All right.
say at this point that they will want all their demands met, including the ones that I just mentioned.
Certainly a fragile situation there. Thank you so much, Jessica, for all that update now. And as we told you, Indian government has called an all-party meeting today on the Bangladesh issue. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar will brief the leaders of various political parties. Also, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the United States is closely monitoring the situation in Bangladesh and urged the interim government formation process to be democratic and inclusive.
We have seen the announcement that Prime Minister Hasina resigned from her position and departed Bangladesh. We are monitoring the situation carefully. The United States stands with the people of Bangladesh. We urge all parties to refrain from further violence. Too many lives have been lost over the course of the past several